All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from the critique of the short story through to line edits on full-length novels. We also offer assistance on generating writers' bios for your websites. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Hey folks, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, Dr. Richard Hyden. We are on the same mission, which is waking up America. We just have different paths. So stay tuned for some information on how you can keep up with Richard and all his work.
Visit Richard's website at raharden.com. That's the World Wide Web at RAHARDIN.com. At his website, you can see a summary of the 6 books he has written, where purchases may be made. He also has a link to 18 videos on YouTube and several blogs about Christian beliefs. If you prefer, visit Amazon.com/Kindle and type in Richard Hyden to see and purchase his books.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps stand ready to defend the American way of life. The few, the proud, the Marines.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Rick Robinson. We're live right now from CPAC 2017 in the beautiful Gaylord Hotel. If you haven't been here yet, this is the only hotel I think I've ever been in that looks like it ate a small town. All right, so we are joined today by Mr. Mark Hyden with the group Conservatives Concerned About the Death Penalty, a project of EJUSA. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Thanks so much for having me on.
It's an honor to have you here. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about what it is that you guys are working on and why it is that you guys are concerned about the death penalty? Because honestly, that's a bit of a different slant for conservatives. So.
Yeah. Well, we're a growing national network of conservatives and some libertarians who believe that the death penalty is inconsistent with our values. And, I say that because most of us are pro-life and we support fiscal responsibility and limited government. But the death penalty risks innocent lives repeatedly and inherently. And it costs far more than life without parole and has even led to tax increases. And, it's giving an error-prone government an immense power over the people. And I really don't think there's anything limited about giving this government the power to kill its citizens.
Well, some people would say that the death penalty is actually what would be considered the ultimate deterrent. What are you guys' stance on that?
Well, there's a lot of studies out there that have come out that shown that the death penalty doesn't deter murder. In fact, a lot of states, when they repeal the death penalty, they see their murder rates go down. So I don't think there's any sort of deterrent effect that's beyond what the life without parole, for instance, does. So there's other options out there that don't have the same drawbacks of risking innocent life and costing a ton of money, but it keeps society just as safe.
All right. Well, I have to admit, I'm actually pro-death penalty. I'm one of the. I have a libertarian friend who says that I should consider myself conflicted because pro-life, but also pro-death penalty, which happens to be a pretty standard mindset for most conservatives. And so, are you guys facing any pushback on that? Are you getting positive feedback, negative feedback?
This is great. This is home for us. These are our people. These are principled individuals who support fiscal responsibility and limited government and pro-life policies. It's the 5th year in a row we've been here, and we're always inundated by supporters downstairs at our booth. And people always come up and say, we thought we were the only conservative that didn't trust our government to do this because we don't even trust them to deliver mail, let alone make life and death decisions over American citizens. So, no, it's always a great experience. But it's not just here. It's also in states. We're launching different conservatives concern groups at the state level in more than a half dozen states. And just in the past 2 years, there have been 12 states that have sponsored or have put forward repeal legislation that was sponsored by Republicans. So we know it's changing around the nation.
All right, so in case anybody is interested in finding out more about what it is that you guys are working on, where can they find your information?
Go to conservativesconcern.org, and if they want to send me any messages or want to ask me any questions, they can send an email to info@conservativesconcern.org. And
just because, as you said, you guys are finding that you hear people all the time that say, I thought I was the only conservative death penalty. So do you have any suggestions for those that may still be kind of closeted and not wanting to come out about the fact that they really don't like the death penalty?
Well, I tell you, so we're supported by a lot of great people. Jay Sekulow was one of our first supporters. Dr. Ron Paul endorsed our goals. We work with Richard Viguerie, who was an advisor to Ronald Reagan. I've been able to work with Colonel Oliver North even. These are some serious conservatives who are very against the death penalty, so they're not alone. And in fact, I can point to several recent polls that came out that showed that the majority of conservatives, and at least the plurality of Republicans, support repealing and replacing the death penalty when given a good option, like life without parole or life without parole plus restitution.
So I guess my next question would be, where do you think we go from here? What are you guys trying to work getting laws enacted, changing legislation? You said there was already work going on in, 12 states? 12
states, yeah, and there's other states that are elsewhere in the pipeline. But yeah, there's a lot of conservative states that you need to keep an eye on. Kansas is one of those that's inching closer towards repeal. Utah almost repealed it last year. It passed through the Senate. Almost made it through the House, but they just ran out of time on the last day of session. So, yeah, we're educational in nature, but we're also trying to repeal it on a state-by-state legislative basis. But what I find is, you don't have to do that much advocacy. It's about education, because when you see what our government does with this government program, it sells itself to repeal.
Well, honestly, it's about like every other government program. You don't realize how bad it is until you actually look into it. And that's, I admit I have always been kind of pro-death penalty, but at the same time, I have started to research it from talking to folks like you and a few other people that I know that are conservative and yet still not supportive of the death penalty. And what concerns me is the fact that there are several instances where we know that innocent people were put to death.
Yeah, over 156 individuals have been wrongly sentenced to die, and those are the ones who were released from death row. But there was others who were executed who may have been innocent. People like Cameron Todd Willingham and Carlos De Luna, who are both in Texas. You can also look at Troy Davis. He was executed in Georgia, even though I believe every single eyewitness recanted. So, there is this real undeniable risk to innocent lives. So if you want to be able to execute the worst of the worst, you have to be willing to accept that kind of collateral damage. And I want to ask some of your listeners, if we as pro-life conservatives, can we really justify a program that kills innocent and guilty? I have a big problem with that, and I think you do too.
Yeah, like I said, just even from us talking, because like I said, I've already done a bit of research because I knew you were coming by today. I have to admit, the numbers, they're kind of scary.
They are scary.
You just don't know. There's too many instances where you back at it and you're like, did put possibly an innocent man to death? And that's concerning. Or innocent individual, I guess we should say. Death penalty isn't gender specific. But I don't know. So, you've given me a lot to think about. Why don't we go ahead and give folks your information one more time?
Yeah, if they go to conservativesconcern.org, they can find a lot of information. They can sign up to our monthly email letter. And if they want to talk to me, ask me any questions, send me some fan mail, which I always appreciate. Info@conservativesconcern.org.
All right. Anything else you want to add on the way out?
No, that's great. Let's do it again soon.
Well, welcome back anytime, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.